Hi, beautiful one. How are you?
Hello, lovely, and hello to everyone.
Hello to everyone. Hi, we're back with a new, freshly sourced episode from Sacred Convos. I personally missed you. What about you, Bia?
Oh my, I missed our conversation and I miss just sharing and connecting with people a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, before we dive in today's session, just really want to express my gratitude for everyone who's been tuning in and asking questions and giving us this beautiful feedback. I'm very, very grateful for that.
Indeed, very grateful.
How is everything in Mexico?
It's good. It has been a time of kind of transitioning, I guess, from one phase to another. I think that's going on for a lot of people, kind of globally. The raining season is starting, which is not my favorite, but I'm trying to keep in touch with my inner sun. Yeah. Um, Good in general, busy, and with a lot of inner things going on inside of myself, kind of, this fermentation process where you're, transforming and alchemizing things. So, yeah. How about you? How have you been?
Well, to many of our listeners, in case you don't know my story, which by the way, you can always ask questions. I recently transitioned into a new place, into a new location for time being, and just experiencing how this feels like being in a whole different system, a different cultural setting, and experiencing a lot of mirroring. Some of that is exciting, other is a bit, at times, yeah, it makes me sad or makes me anxious, but it's definitely a learning curve. And the weather is aces. I get to go to the sea every day, which has been my lifelong dream. So yay. Yay me, yay tan, something is happening. I'm happy on that part. Yeah, that is the why I made this shift for
A
me.
dream
I
come
made this move
true.
because I
Just say
remember
it out loud.
that
A
dream
dream
come
come
true.
true.
I wanted to stay humble.
Do
Yeah, it's
not,
pretty much
do
the dream.
not. It's a major thing in life when we spend years of our life imagining and dreaming and then actually manifesting it. Come on, you're living your dream. It's amazing. It's something to celebrate. We should throw a party when I'm back in Greece just for that.
Yes.
Alexandra's manifestation of her dream life. That's it. I will organize that. It will be a beach party
Do you guys
with
see what she
swimming,
does?
with
Oh
swimming
my
suits
God.
and surfboards. Nothing else allowed.
Do you see, guys, how this person is? This is the type of love I get every time. You guys. She's so lovable. Thank you. Yeah, and let's partay. Proceed. Okay. Guys, I cannot promise you if we're gonna sober up and be all serious today.
Yeah.
Maybe we're gonna be quirky and childlike, but I think we might need that also. We don't always have to be serious and to the point. We can sometimes just be playful and lightful and, a bit funny. Something to ease the heart.
Yay.
Ha! Yay. Okay, cool. So,
A little
before...
birdie told me that you have been recently diving into amazing sessions with people, giving them past life regression. Somebody told me. Would you like to share a little bit about it? I'm very curious because you still haven't given me one, so I want to know about
it. Gladly. I'm just so excited that you're stepping up your moderation game. This is it, girl. I love that. Okay. Yeah, I'd love to speak about that because I'm super, super, super excited. This is just a whole different way to dive in a different level of consciousness.
By the way,
So
for you that don't know, Alexandra is a consciousness coach, but that's a tiny little word of what she does, you know, in her coaching. It just spreads and extends to many different levels and layers of yourself, and it's just an incredible journey. So she's expanding her horizons and her talents, and now we have like another layer to her amazing, amazing gifts. So please tell us about it.
Oh my God, like 80 shades of blushing here. Thank you. I'll start the camera even with. Thank you. I started facing the matter of death when I was very young. I lost, no, I'm going to rephrase it. My cousin passed away when I was very young, and that left a strong mark inside. And I always, since then, have been trying to understand what is death and why does death need to happen? And is there a life after death? Is there a metaphysical world? Or are we just going to end up warm food? And I've listened to a lot of different teachings. Some of them resonated strongly. Others sounded like a great explanation, but I didn't feel them to ring true for me. And as I was deeply in my own personal journey of evolution, which maybe most of you can relate, it's a never-ending journey. But when I was very deeply in, one of my closest people advised me to do a past life healing regression therapy. What is that? Did I ask? It sounded fun, but I'm like, what past life? What do you mean by past life? And something inside of me was very happy. Like, oh, cool. There's other people who are convinced that we've lived many other times as well. And they actually are creating a therapy around that aspect. What is that? And before I experienced the notion of such a therapy session, I came across the works of Dr. Brian L. Weiss, who has been, cool stuff. Anybody, guys, we're going to put up the links to follow below in the captions. Yep. Make sure to read it. If, of course, you feel a resonance towards that and excitement, I can strongly recommend it. This guy's journey has been amazing. He was chair of the psychiatric department of the University of Florida, and especially also since the 70s. And yes, Jewish by, in terms of what his official religion was, but he was never really a believer in anything. He claims to have been a nihilist, and he was married and still is, has 3 children, I think, and he was a student of Freud. And around the 70s, there was a client that came to him. She was a young woman, and this woman went through a lot of pain and a lot of turmoil and a lot of panic attacks that he tried to heal with, medicine, basically. And when they realized that this didn't work, that none of her symptoms diminished, he then considered to do healing work through hypnosis, applying Freud's, going back to early childhood and seeing maybe something has happened there that has scarred her for the rest of her life. Well, the client agreed, only that when he was about to hypnotize her, he commanded her subconscious, not per se verbatim, to go back to her childhood, but he said unknowingly what repercussions this would create.
I have
Go back.
Because I have read
go
that
back.
many times. Like, ooh, yeah, please.
Let's go to the source of where your current symptoms came from. And all of a sudden, this woman speaks in a different language. She describes a scenario that is not of this time. She describes what is happening to her that seemed like a huge flood, where this woman almost I think she drowned, or there was definitely a catastrophic experience with this woman. And much to his surprise, you know, first of all, it shattered his own whole worldview of everything. And you guys can read it in his first book, Many Lives, Many Masters. It's his very first book, which is a lot of also autobiographic and tells exactly his personal evolution in awakening into, oh my, there's so much more after death than we were told that is, or than that modern science can actually prove currently. And the beauty is that not only did this client heal session to session, but he came to realize that there's actually nothing to be afraid of, and that nothing is terminal, nothing is fatal. And so he became kinder and more compassionate and started enjoying life more. And maybe important thing to mention, whenever this client of his, in the very first book, he published 5 books after that as well, with collected stories of such sort. When this woman was being transgressed, this is the term used for somebody who's being put into a past life, given a certain theme, right? She sometimes, after the methodology, which applies that, you know, you're looking into a certain life that you wanted to research upon, or that maybe is interwoven karmically with your current life, and that needs to be kind of entangled or detangled. When this person then has understood and has revisited that past life, and it's usually from, you know, your own perspective, similar as with like a virtual reality game. You see this all from your own eyes, and you know things and you remember things, and you don't know how, like your mind is baffled as into, how did I, even if I could, how do I have such a wild fantasy so fast? And you're starting to realize deep down, no, this is actually true what is happening right now. And usually the methodology is such that when this person, the client, has been transgressed and he or she reawakens to a past life, it usually you're being asked to describe your most important moment of that life or something traumatic that happened. And then it's being fast forwarded to the last moment before your physical death. And after that, for everyone he's ever transgressed, and for everyone I have ever transgressed, the beauty is that the description of what happens after death is the same. That we go through a tunnel where we approach the white light, and sometimes on the other side of the tunnel there's somebody waiting for us. It can be a relative, it can be a soul family relative, it can be a spirit guide. It's different for everyone. But the going into the light is for all of the people who've experienced that, usually the same feeling of, I'm going home. And much to his surprise, whenever his first client went home or went back to source, she met certain spirit guides that sometimes spoke through her direct messages to this doctor, telling him very, very private things of his life that only he and his wife knew, not even his own children. And so step by step, he became a believer, because he said, this is too many odds to be just a fantasy or to be just sheer coincidence. And later in life, not only he, but parallelly, other doctors and other researchers of this field made the following experience, that whenever a person has been transgressed, also mostly in a recent life, in the life of a city, of a place which could still be visitable today, they actually did and visit those places and confirmed that, yes, in that old village, in that old house, there was an antique drawer, and the drawer in the back, there was engraved a certain letter that meant something that this person actually did, and then only to come back later in a different incarnation actually remembering that and going there and proving, hey, I didn't make this up, I actually saw that. And yeah, I didn't know if I've taken too much of your time, you guys. It's a lot to explain that. Lydia, do you want to share something before I go deeper into why I chose to do that part?
Yes. There is, I mean, I have also some of my personal experiences because I have also kind of experienced this passing because when I was 17, my best friend died in a car accident. And the weirdest thing is that she had told her mom, she had told her that I will die young and don't wait for me to have children. And I was very young and it was a shocking event. And we grew up together since we were like 0. So, you know, I had a very close connection to her. Um, and since then, I I have seen her so many times in my dreams, and I have felt her presence in a way that I cannot explain with words here, but I can share it. I can share my feeling about it. And many times I've had. I remember when I moved to England, and it was the first time that I moved out of my own country. I felt I know this place so much. And at that point, nobody had ever told me about my own past lives, or I have never explored that, or I had any of my own images, right? And I went to places, and especially when I traveled to Ireland, I remember I felt home. Like literally, I have been in this place and I know it. And how is this possible? I was so shocked. And it was confirmed later, you know, by some healer without him knowing about my experience with Ireland, specifically about Ireland. So that was a very curious thing, you know, how much of a coincidence can you have? But what I wanted to share is I don't remember his name. I was just trying to check for you guys to look at it. But there was a Brazilian medium that did exactly that. Um, there is his life story in autobiography. I'm just trying to remember his name. And what he did, this is in a movie, you can watch it. What he did is that a lot of people that wanted to communicate with someone that has passed went to this person and he did automatic writing, okay? But the strange thing is that he wrote in the letters of these people that had passed exactly the same, like uh,
Handwriting.
And it was in such a level that people were so shocked because also, you know, some people had lost their children. And there was a writing inside there that, you know, only the parents knew. And this guy, there was no way he could have known these little details. And it was written, and he gave them this paper. And it's like he didn't remember anything later. And there was a case, which is incredible. It's in this movie um, that there were 2 children that at some point went together with 2 bikes, and one of them got killed. And the the parents of this kid blamed the other kid for killing him. And these people, the parents that had their son passed, of course, they were very angry. And at some point, someone pushed them to go to this medium at that time. This was, I don't know, 50 years ago or more in Brazil. And they were very like resistant. I mean, they didn't believe in any of these things. And then at the end, they said, okay. And this guy like wrote a whole thing with things that they were so shocked that he could not have known. Even he signed below the name the way their own child wrote it. And what happened is that this went to the court. This case went to the court because they wanted to blame this child for killing the other one. And they actually took the testimony paper of this medium that said the child said inside it was an accident, this is the way I was killed, please don't blame the other kid for my death. And the court received that as proof, and they set the child free. I was like, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, incredible story. So I'm still trying to remember, this guy was one of the teachers of João de Deus, the Brazilian medium. I'm just checking them because I just have it here in the tip of my mouth, but I don't remember right now. Um, well, I might find it later and I will just type it below. But really, guys, it's worth watching the movie. It's his own biography that he wrote in a book and later it was made into a movie. So yeah, a little bit of stories from me. And the other thing I wanted to add is, of course, we can all be skeptical about it, with our rational mind, because I also have that sometimes. And exploring, this unified physics of Nassim Haramein and of geometry, science, and all these sciences, there is nothing, literally nothing in the universe that gets lost. There is no such thing as a beginning as an end. There is no linear thing. So if you put that in mind, that the whole universe works like that, I don't think there is any way that, we are something with a beginning and an end, and there is nothing before and there is nothing after. That just doesn't make any sense with the science we have proven now for, the entire universe. So there is transformation of form, but the energy and consciousness is there. So, if we are here with one body today and then we were with another body and then, we transform in other bodies, which I have no idea about, maybe non-physical bodies or, whatever other bodies can be. I think that fits far more, with the way the universe works itself.
You are in such a beautiful flow right now. I just perceived that there was a clicking with your microphone, and it would have been too bad if your message would have been affected by the clicking sounds. That's why I was like trying to hint you on the microphone. But yeah, that's so beautifully said. I always love that we create that bridge through metaphysics and belief and groundbreaking, cutting edge science. I came to realize, at least for me, that the things that really, really, really hurt and that you don't recover from are usually not true. What truly hurts is something that is so not in alignment with all that is, with the cycles of life, that is the reason it hurts. It's kind of like this bell of your soul, heralding, hey, there's something you don't see yet. It's not the whole picture. And there are, for example, other cultures who are celebrating if a person is passing on. Los Días de los Muertos, for example, in Mexico, or in Hawaii, where everybody's paddling out and singing for that person. I'm not saying one shouldn't be sad or there's zero sadness involved in someone's passing. Of course, you miss that being. And it doesn't have to be just a person. It can be an animal too. But to me, regarding this whole aspect of death and the fatality of all, ever since I convinced myself, or I got convinced, that death is truly just someone moving on into a different form, and no, there's no real separation, this core pain stopped to exist within me. The core fear of, what am I going to do when I die? Is that all it? That stopped. There was like a sense of peace within me. And yes, of course, I miss my cousin at times, or my other friends and family that have moved on. But I started to speak to them. And only because I can't see them, it doesn't mean I can't feel them. Or maybe some of you are seeing your people, your beloved ones, in dreams, which is a great in-between state where we can meet, because our logical brain is kind of muted, and then the subconscious is awakening, and there, the veil is very thin there. But for me, the reason I wanted to explore also in being able to transgress people into past lives was because I realized in my healing profession that some some roots of our pain or discomforts or diseases, let it be mental diseases, physical diseases, didn't necessarily stem from this life. And we do live right now in a world where, you know, when we are wanting to meet somebody that's outside of us, we usually state our name, state our age, state our heritage. But to me, that's really just like one role that you're playing in this eternal stage of theater that is all consciousness. And once you realize, and I can only empower you to do that, if again you feel the resonance to do so, but after your first past life transgression, whoever you may be, you may not even be a human being, you may not even be on planet Earth, you may be here in a complete different body. The biggest takeaway one could experience is to have compassion for every living being, because we have already been everything. I transgressed because I couldn't cope with the pain of having been raped in my life. I identified as a victim, but then I realized I don't want to identify as a victim anymore. What can I do? And I've visited lives where I was the assaulter. That was a hard one. It was so hard to admit, oh my, I have induced such pain and misery on other people. And once I started to realize how everything is interconnected, how there is no assaulter and victim, those are two separate things. No, we're all part of the same. I could be way more forgiving, but of course I had to forgive myself as well. And yeah, I remember you, Lydia, you stated something the other day of David Icke. If you want to share it again, I think it's quite fitting.
Yeah, I watched the recent interview a few days ago. I think it aired live this Sunday on London Real. It was a beautiful interview. If you guys feel like it, watch it and take whatever you resonate with. Doesn't mean that, watching someone we feel in complete alignment with what they say. Even you are watching us and maybe you like 80% or 90% or whatever amount you like, just take it away and leave the rest. I'm saying that because there is a lot of controversy around David Icke. So what I'm sharing right now is that he had a very deep message to share through this interview that he kept on repeating and repeating. And I find that this is the deeper core of the issues that we have in humanity in general, not just right now. So he was saying that all the problems of racism or anything else stem from the fact that situations or global structure right now want to divide us, and they create this division in many ways. So the important is to realize that we are not this physical body, and we all stem, these were his words, we all stem from the same infinite eternal consciousness, and we're just having an experience in a white body, in a female body, in a color body, in a black body, in an Asian body, in a masculine body, in a transgender body, whatever body you want. But this is just an experience. And in my own words, I would just say, this is like a costume, right? And we chose in this incarnation to live through this body for specific reasons because we wanted to live specific things so we can evolve through that. It was our own choice. This is the way I see it, and this is how I have experienced it very clearly. So he kept on saying that unless we stop identifying as a white person, as a black person, as a woman, as a man, or whatever, we will always have division, and we cannot come together as humanity. And that creates all sorts of problems. So if we want to go back to that, I think past lives and past life regression can help immensely on that, because it helps us detach and unidentify in a way from this costume, because we have had so many costumes. Like, you know, imagine if actors identify with a role and they think they are that role. And then you think, but they have played so many roles. Like, why do they identify with one or the other and they think they are that? So I think one way to see it is we're playing in these movies, and every incarnation is like a movie, and we are assigned, or we assign ourselves maybe from a higher level, this role, because that's what we want to experience for our soul to evolve. So I think this work, first of all, can help us unidentify and not be so attached to our current costume. And second, it can also help us become more whole. Imagine a person that, you know, is 40 years old and has no memory until 30. Like, you don't own a part of your life or your being or your experiences. You know, you're not whole. So when you remember and when you see the series of things that you have lived, then you start to become more whole and take all the different pieces of yourself together. And then you can realize that, yes, I have lived all these things. So, you know, what I am today, it's also a result of all these experiences that I've had until now.
Yeah, well said. So well said. I just found myself agreeing and nodding to everything you said. It's very hard to disagree with you. um, yeah, when you were describing that beautiful analogy with the roles or the suits that we are wearing, the costumes, I came to realize that similar as with this linear way of thinking that I believe will be very challenged in the future, to think only linear, to have a linear understanding of our history. If we were to look a bit outside of that paradigm, just for a moment, entertain the possibility that other lives in other dimensions with other, you know, forms are possible, and that you may have existed as well in a different time space continuum, then it's truly, as you said so beautifully, Lydia. I just saw this this string, a huge string, and our life is just this very, very, very tiny part. And there's such a big, not baggage, but such a big history attached to it that we are often oblivious to. And oh man, imagine this would happen. This would be taught in schools. Imagine that. Imagine that we would realize as a normality in our everyday lives, we've already been everything. And we only just walk each other home. There would be so much more compassion, so much less inequality and unfairness and injustice and pain and hurt and violence, especially violence. Yeah. How would you, as a closing question, how would you feel on a micro level, aka with one person, and on a macro level, being a whole culture or a whole community of people, to be positively affected by growing accustomed to the notion of past lives and reincarnation.
I think what you mentioned before about schools, that could be like incredibly shifting a person's life. And why I'm saying that is because children, especially until 7, they function in different brain waves. They are these brain waves that they go slowly, kind of dream-like or sleep-like or meditation-like. So imagine if a child is not programmed by anything saying in the world like there is only death and there is nothing after it, or it's only material world, all of these programmings that we have normally from society, and you put this child in a very early age, I think the effects would be dramatic, because I think they will be able to remember almost everything. And that could be written or recorded or whatever, and then that could be used by this person in his life to go deeper into healing, to embrace the totality of his being, to disengage from the fact that I'm only this body of today, and to realize that I'm a far bigger being existence through time and space, through different roles, through different countries and genders and races. And I think that will, of course, increase the amount of compassion and increase the unity that one would be able to feel with different people around us, different races and ages and genders and whatever. Because this person would feel like, I have been that, I remember, so of course I understand you, of course I have compassion for you, I have been in your own shoes. And I think that's the definition of compassion that we have symbolically today, is put yourself in the other person's shoes. And of course, we can do that opening up our hearts and feeling what the other person is feeling. But imagine if you have actually lived it, if you have had that experience in the past, of course, you can be far more forgiving and understanding and compassionate. So I think that could have an immense, shift and transformation in humanity as we know it today.
Yeah. One of the most beneficial notions that I could generate together with my clients when we did past life feelings was, for example, a recent experience with one client who had just very little self-esteem, very, very low self-trust, almost no belief in herself or worthiness. And since we checked all the boxes, that it wasn't just a belief system that she has had been given from her parents, that nothing traumatic happened in her childhood, like we really checked all the boxes to see, okay, would it make sense to go back to past life? And what we saw there was, well, we were showing 3 lives on this very matter, on this very topic. You guys, just FYI, just imagine there's this vast, eternal, endless library of everything that has happened, that will happen, that can happen. This is in many circles being quoted as the Akashic records. And in those Akashic records, depending on, similar as when you go to Google, you type in one word and it gives you so many different links to read upon, depending which word you fed into the huge search engine. So imagine that the Akashic Records is like this ethereal search engine, and you put in the theme or the title of the file that you want to download. And so with that very client, it has been that very theme. What may have happened in a past life or past lives that has affected her and really not feeling any self-trust or worthiness whatsoever. And we've seen that she was a young child who was awfully molested by her own father, and that her mother knew about it but never mentioned anything. And it was as if in that life she was so mistreated that part of her own pride, part of her own uh, gracious understanding of self had been completely disabled. And two lives following after that we saw also um, had a lot to do with molestation and abuse, both psychological as well as physical. And so we did not only the regression. For me, it's very important to also walk out of these experiences in a healed state and to reintegrate any lost part of the soul that, you know, was stuck there, and reintegrate it back into this very space-time continuum. And the beauty was, guys, that when we did that, the next day already, and gradually ever since, every day after, this woman, it was as if she was rebirthed in a whole different notion of beingness, in a whole different experience of what being and self and I and the identity of her meant for her. And when we, that is my concluding kind of message for today, is we all are narrative and meaning generating individuals. Every single day in our existence, we are creating meaning to something. We're generating a narrative, aka belief system, aka conviction, aka fear or wish, aka an identification of who I am. Now, if the who I am changes, for the better or for the worse, you will make different decisions. As simple as that. And you can see this happening. I mean, that's for me quintessentially what the gist, the core element of storytelling and advertisement is. Advertisement is nothing different than an appeal to your own identification, promising you something better will come along if you only buy that product, or if you only wear that label. And all of a sudden you wear it, and maybe for some they will feel different. And that's my core message for you guys today, is that the understanding of self, unless it's going really back to the core, where we all come from, the essence of source, if you want. But apart from that, any space we have to identify ourselves is fluid. So you today listening to this, anything you don't like on yourself, or anything you'd like to improve, or any belief system you held to be true of not being able to achieve A, B, C, D, I honor that. I acknowledge that you are there. And even if you don't ever do a past life healing regression therapy, that's fine with me. But know that your identity of self is fluid. You can change it because you've already been everything. That to me is my message for you today.
Wow, such a beautiful message and very deeply touching. I feel it. One last thing I wanted to share is, because I love this connection of science and spirituality. All the work of unified physics now has shown that there is this fabric of time space where everything, all the information is stored. We already know that. We actually scientifically know that these Akashic records, they are there and they're everywhere. There is this vacuum energy that Nassim proved and has been also experimentally measured, that is full of energy and information. So it's everywhere. It's what links us and interlink us. So I would love to leave you with that thought today, that basically all the information of everyone is there in a field that connects us all. It's in a field that connects us all.
My love, can you say the same sentence once more and try maybe I think your necklace is clashing with the microphone, and that's
Yeah.
why there's disruption in your message.
Well, I was just saying that the last notion I would like to leave you with today is that there is this field that we call ether or vacuum or Akashic records or chi or prana or whatever you want to call it in different languages, that all information of everything in the universe is stored there, and it's accessible because we are part of it. We're not out of it and it's somewhere there. We're living inside of it and we are part of it. Our own body and our own consciousness is part of it. What happened?
Just laughing because while you were speaking, there was a bug flying to my eye, and I was listening to "We're all part of everything," parallelly seeing my body doing this to the fly, and I'm like, no, be embracive. You're part of the fly. It's part of you, sir.
It's okay. That's all I have to share today. Thank you for your sharing, Alex. I find it so important and valuable. And once again, we love to connect and share with you. Thank you for being with us and listening. And if you have any questions, just pop them down below. We'll be very happy to see you soon with another episode.
Same here, beloved. Thank you so much. If you can share anything, any link of the work of Dr. Nassim Haramein in the link below, that would be great. And to anybody else listening and wanting to upgrade their lives, their home, their environment, their health with the notion of sacred geometry, please check out Lydia's website, geophilia.com. And you can find the link also below. Like this video, share it with anybody you might feel may benefit from this discourse or exchange. And if you want to be part of our conversation by enriching us with any questions you have, then please, by all means, do so. Lydia, thank you for your insights. Thank you for your grace, for your beauty, for your wisdom, and for always understanding how to see the bigger picture and like ping pong it back also with a scientific understanding. I love you and I honor your life. Mahalo, my sister. Bye, everyone.